We're going to get started with our very last tasting of the year. 2020, man, it's been quite a ride. But we can say that we made it through. Thank you so much to all of you for your support in helping us get through. It has not been easy. I think a lot of people were confused when they started reading that off-premise retail wine sales, alcohol sales were up 40%. They were, but not necessarily in little stores like ours. Most of the sales were in grocery stores because people were already there. Costco, people were already there. I can't blame them for the people who didn't know about us and the people that we hadn't had a chance to build a relationship with yet. It was tough to get them to make that extra stop. So thank you all to you for always making that extra stop to support us, for not buying your wine when you could elsewhere. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And it is because of you that we were able to make it through, and that we will continue on into 2021 and share great wines with you, and get to know you and get to know more of your friends along this journey of wine tasting. I can't believe Christmas is already here, almost already here. It feels like it was just yesterday that we were doing this Christmas tasting in the store, and pretty sure that we will next year, but nothing's a guarantee. We will plan for it and we will hope for it, but for now we're going to enjoy these awesome wines via Zoom on our last tasting of the year. Aaliyah, thank you again for an amazing slide deck. If you didn't know this, all of these wonderful multimedia infographic artwork is all because of Aaliyah's hard work and dedication to you and the store and these wineries and everybody who we're going to explore today. So wine and food pairings, that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit here. We're really going to talk more about the wines, but we are going to talk a little bit about wine and food pairings. Taste in your palate. Oh, wait, before I do this, please go ahead and get into your wines. Do not wait for me to start drinking.
We didn't tell them the lineup.
Thank you. And take it away, Leah.
Oh, sorry. We didn't tell you guys the lineup, which would be helpful, right? We are going to start with the Division Wine Co. Un. So the Un Pinot Noir. Then we're going to go to the Poderi Solario E Rosso. Next to the Pascal and Beatrice Lambert Chinon, which is Cab Franc. And then we're going to end with the Chateau Pays Bonhomme Bordeaux Rouge. And this was hard. These are actually, these were pretty flexible where you could do them in various orders, but that's what we're going to do. Keep it easy.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So start drinking while we're talking, because as we're talking about food and wine, you should be drinking some wine and hopefully eating some food too. If you've got some charcuterie in front of you, feel free to enjoy. So taste in our palate is perceived flavor characteristics of sweet, salty, bitter, sour, umami, and fat. Those are the main flavor components that you're going to find in food. Wine lacks the three tastes of fatness, spiciness, and saltiness, but it does contain acidity, sweetness, and bitterness. When we're talking about food and wine pairings, we want the components to balance or to enhance each other. We call these complementary or conflicting tasting profiles and pairings. And what you're really looking for is pairing the appropriate wine with the appropriate spectrum of flavors that you're going to find in food. So you have sweet, you have salty, you have bitter, you have sour, you have umami, and you have fat. Depending on what the percentage of components there are of those things is going to determine the wine. If you've got a food that is really salty and bitter, but it doesn't have any fat and it doesn't have any sweetness, it's going to be a different wine pairing than if you had sweet, salty, bitter, and fat on the same dish. So which percentage of those components you find in food is going to really help you figure out which wine you should pair with each individual dish. There's really, I think, two very, very important rules when it comes to wine pairing. There's a lot of rules when it comes to wine and food pairings, and some rules are made to be broken, but there's two really important ones that you need to think about when you're pairing the food for Christmas table. And the first is it a wine that you enjoy? That is the number one rule of wine and food pairing. Is it a wine that you enjoy? After that, you want to match intensity of flavors with intensity of flavors. So if you have a dish that is very rich and has a lot of flavor, you probably need a bigger wine that has a lot of flavor. If you have a delicate food dish that has very elegant flavors, then you're going to want a wine that has very elegant flavors as well. And you don't want the wine to overpower the food, and you don't want the food to overpower the wine. Then you have either conflicting or complementary pairing options. An example of conflicting would be sweet with spicy. If you have spicy food, pairing a sweet wine with it will help mellow the spice, and also the flavors meld really, really well together. And so that's a conflicting pairing. A complementary pairing would be, why am I losing this one? A buttery Chardonnay with a buttery lobster. Sorry, my brain is on overdrive right now. Not to mention baby brain with the newborn at home. So if I fumble over my words a little bit, I apologize. But buttery Chardonnay with a buttery lobster, that's a complementary pairing. Those two things go together. They have similar flavor profiles. If you have like a dish, let's say a fish dish with a lot of herbs, Sauvignon Blanc with a lot of herbs in the flavor profile will be a complementary food pairing. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about when we talk about complementary and conflicting food pairings. And then let's get into the wines. After we talk about the Christmas table pairings. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun. So Christmas, just like we talked about with Thanksgiving, there's a broad range of dishes. Some people do steak, some people do ham, some people do turkey again. I can't do turkey 2 holidays in a row, but more power to you for those of you who do. And so there's a lot of different things that you're going to have on Christmas table that you may not have had on Thanksgiving table, or you may have some similar things that you had from Thanksgiving table. The wines that we picked for the Christmas table pairing, as opposed to the Thanksgiving table pairing, are a little bit bigger, a little bit more complexity, a little bit more depth, and a little bit more tannin structure in them. If you remember the red wines that we chose for Thanksgiving table, it was a little bit more elegant, Gamay, Pinot Noir, Cab Franc. Even though we have a Cab Franc in this lineup, the Cab Franc that we're doing in this lineup is a little bit different than the Cab Franc that we did at the Christmas or at the Thanksgiving table pairing. So with a lot of dishes, you want a lot of different wines on the table. We chose to do reds because it's cold outside, and usually reds get the focus of the attention when it comes to any kind of gathering. But you also need to properly host bubbles, white wine, and rosé wine. You want to have a wide range of different options for different wine drinkers, for different palates, and also for different food pairings. So we have some great packs that are curated in the store that will give you sparkling, white, rosé, and 3 reds. And all of these reds are from those Thanksgiving pack or Christmas packs. Man, I am just all over Thanksgiving and Christmas. I apologize. And when you're looking at those things, acidity is the biggest flavor component to look for in the wine, especially. Higher acid wines tend to be better with food. It's not always the case, but most of the time it is. And most of the time, they're more versatile with more types of food. So you can enjoy one wine and it will complement multiple dishes, as opposed to just going really well with one dish. So you look for wines that are higher in acid, and you'll find that throughout our tasting. Even though they're different grapes, even though they're different regions, even though they're a little bit different styles, acid is one thing that they have throughout. And they're not all super high acid, but they all have a really beautiful acid that's in balance with the other components of the wine. Acid complements the salty, it complements the fatty, it complements the sweet. It really goes with a wide array of foods. Alcohol and tannin with red wine need to be in balance with the fattiness and the richness of the food. So if you're doing prime rib, you want a wine that has a lot of tannin structure to go along with that prime rib. And that is an absolutely phenomenal pairing. Anything that's going to have high tannin going with that high fatty food. If you're going to do a stew, anything with a little bit of richness, if you have a really rich gravy that has a lot of fat in it, high tannin wines, high acid, high tannin wines in particular, are going to go really, really well with those dishes. For some reason, I just thought of Bordeaux, which we're going to get to in a minute, and stuffed mushrooms. Right now, that just seems like an amazing food pairing to me. So think about the food, think about the flavor components of the food, and then think about the flavor components of the wine. And now we're going to get into the wines. Starting off with one of our favorite winemakers out of Oregon, Kate Norris from Division Wine Company. If you haven't discovered her wines, hopefully you will after this one. And we have a lot more in the store. We featured her Gamay Rosé for our Thanksgiving pack. We also have a beautiful Chardonnay from her, Gamay and Cab Franc blend from her. And we get lots of wines from them throughout the year that we'll only get 6 or 12 bottles of. So this is Division Wine Company. They are located in the Willamette Valley. They work in a shared winemaking facility, a really cool urban shared winemaking facility. We had a Zoom call with Kate earlier in the summer, and if you're interested in hearing more about her and her wines and her story, you can find those on our Vimeo page that you can get right below the link that you got on to get to this Zoom tasting on the website. And it's a great resource of information. We absolutely love her. Great story. She studied in France. She studied all over the world as an understudy at different wineries, trying to learn the trade from the ground up, and really came to understand that it's all about farming. It's all about finding the right vineyard sites and then picking grapes that are of the healthiest quality and then getting out of the way, letting nature take its course, natural fermentation. The wines that we're tasting today, all 4 of them undergo natural fermentation. They're all very, very traditional wines. They're all either biodynamically or organically certified. And 2 of them have absolutely no sulfur or any other additives. And 2 of them have just a small amount of sulfur added at bottling. So very natural, very healthy, and also a little bit more food friendly and a little bit more elegant. Her Pinot Noirs, I love. This is a blend of a bunch of different vineyards in the Willamette Valley. So we're right here. This dark green area is Willamette. And it's a pretty broad range. Goes from Salem way up here. And each little area, so this is an area that's different than this area and is different from this area. There's 5 distinct, what they call viticultural areas in the Willamette Valley now that are recognized by the government as producing a unique enough wine to warrant an AVA. And that's what AVAs are, American Viticultural Association. And within Willamette, which is the big AVA, there's 5 other AVAs sitting underneath. And Aaliyah, if you have the bottle, do you mind reading off, or actually, is it on the slide deck coming? I bet it is. There it is right there. All of the vineyards that we're sourcing from for the Division Pinot Noir. So this is a true representation of Willamette Valley. What she's doing is she's using different areas, blending them together to get a Willamette style. And it's a little bit different every year. The last vintage was a little bit riper because it was a little bit warmer of a vintage. This vintage is a little bit more elegant and has just a hint of tannin on the back end, but it's really, really beautiful. You're getting part of it from the Johan Vineyards from Van Duzer district, Eola Springs Vineyard. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Bjornson Vineyard, I think. Redford Weddell Vineyard, Temperance Hill. Those are all in Eola Amity Hills. Casson Vineyard from Yamhill Carlton, and Armstrong from Ribbon Ridge. So she has 4 of the 5 AVAs represented in this wine. Natural fermentation, as we mentioned, which is spontaneous fermentation. You're just allowing nature to take its course. The grapes are covered with yeast when they come into the winery, and it's what grapes want to do. They want to become wine. Everything that they need to become wine is present on the grapes themselves when they come in from the winery. So all the winemaker really has to do is crush the grapes and then let nature take its course. After that happens, she's doing whole cluster semi-carbonic. So basically she's putting the whole cluster of grapes in instead of just picking the berries off. And then the carbonic partial is creating a juicier style of Pinot Noir. Aged in French and Austrian oak, 15% new, mostly neutral, which means aged barrels that don't impart a lot of flavor. And then 9 months before being racked to concrete tanks for 1 month. This is a beautiful expression of what Willamette Valley is. Willamette Valley is not Burgundy. It is not California. It is distinctly, uniquely Willamette Valley. And for the producers that allow their wines to really speak of the land, it's a very elegant style of Pinot. There is fruit, there is earth, there is a little bit of structure sometimes, depending on the vintage. There's acid, but it's all in really, really good balance. You can definitely do this with ham. I think it would be phenomenal with that. Turkey, it's light enough to not overwhelm the turkey. Same with chicken. Beautiful salmon pairing or any other fatty fish. In the Willamette Valley, Pinot Noir and salmon really go hand in hand in the Pacific Northwest. You're drinking a local product. You're eating a very fresh local product, and salmon and Pinot is a classic pairing. But it really can stand up to any other fatty fish that you might be doing as well. What do you guys think of the Division Un? Aaliyah, thoughts?
I love this wine, and I know Adam already knows this, but for the rest of the team, Division as a company, every single wine they do to me is so complex. You go on a journey with every sip, and it seems like no matter what, you get something new out of every sip. And I think that's really unique. And I'll be honest, I was kind of off the Pinot Noir train for a while because the ones I was encountering personally weren't, I'm gonna say flavorful enough. They weren't complex enough. And I just, for the money, especially, like, you get so much from the wines that they make. And I love this. Like, it is such a beautiful wine. I can see where it's not for everybody because it is a very big Pinot. And if you're looking for Pinot Noir, it can definitely surprise people, and it has. But to me, especially if you're considering food, this is a great little wine.
Agreed. I hope y'all love it. At the very end, we'll find out the favorites from everybody. I forgot to mention, if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat function at any time, and we'll get to those. Aaliyah is also a great moderator, and we'll make sure that all of your questions get answered. And we're going to move right along into the next wine. So this is Paderi Cilario. The Paderi Cilario E Rosso is going to be the wine that we're on now. Get a little bit in your glass if you don't have it already. And we're going to take a little journey to Italy. So we're in northern Italy here. Piedmont region, one of the most historic regions in Italy. Tuscany would arguably be number one, and Piedmont number two in the general wine consumer population, as far as knowing wines from there, recognizing it as a region, and popularity in drinking it. Barbaresco and Barolo are the king of Piedmont, two of the killer bees from Italy. Barolo and Barbaresco are regions in the Piedmont, and they are always 100% Nebbiolo. There are two other very important grapes in this region that get a lot less credit than Nebbiolo, and that is Barbera and Dolcetto. For our conversation today, we're going to be focusing on Barbera. Barbera is what the locals drink while they're waiting for their Barolos and Barbarescos to age. Barolo and Barbaresco have fierce tannin. They need 10, 15 years in the bottle before they're drinking at their best. And so while you're cellaring those, the daily drinker is Barbera. It is just a beautiful wine, and can have a range of expressions. It can be light like Pinot Noir, or it can be full and rich like Cab. And it really depends on how it's treated in the vineyard, the weather, the soil, the microclimate, when the producer decides to pick the wine. Those factors determine what style of Barbera it's going to be. And really that can be said for all grapes, but some grapes are more susceptible to a variance in style than others. All grapes can be different styles. You can have Cabernet that's light or full. You can have Pinot that's light or full. All grapes can have variance of style depending on those factors, but some grapes seem more susceptible to the style differences. And Barbera, in my mind, is one of those because it can be so vastly different. This style of Barbera is kind of right in the middle of the road. It's not as light as a Pinot. It's not as big as a Cab, but it's definitely got some complexity, some weight, some depth to it, and a great personality to it as well. And I believe personality in wine comes from the personality of the winemakers. And if you look over here at this picture, the orange picture that we've got up for you, far left, that face is Fausto Cilario. He is an absolutely awesome, amazing human being who has tons and tons and tons of energy. This guy, we did a Zoom tasting with him as well. So we've done a Zoom tasting with two of the producers that we have on the tasting today. I just realized that. You can check out his Zoom tasting as well, and he's hilarious, full of energy, full of life. Half of the tasting was in Italian, and we had no idea what he was saying, but it didn't matter because we got the gist of what he was saying. And it was awesome. So Fausto and I forgot Cinzia. Is it Cinzia, Aaliyah? Am I getting that wrong? I got it. Okay. Fausto and Cinzia, husband and wife down here. They bought property in Italy. They are from this area, longtime farmers in this area. And they kind of set out to create a winery that was a little bit avant-garde for the region. This is a very stuffy region, a very steeped in tradition region. And they wanted to create a winery that made great wines, but also had a lot of fun. So they are a lot of fun. And their wines have a shared personality that I think stems from them. This is 100% Barbera. This is the A series. So EA in Italian, they have a Rosso, they have a Rosato, they have an orange, they have a Bianco, they have Grigno, Grinozza. So there's this whole line of kind of entry-level, super fun to drink, non-pretentious table wines that they produce. This is the Barbera. The Cilario Vineyard Holdings, 30 hectares between 5 different sites covering the Southern Lang, and they're all about farming. They are biodynamic, even though they're not certified. Biodynamic is a type of farming that takes all of the organic principles, practices them, and then adds on a bunch of other principles as well. They follow the cycles of the moon for planting, for pruning, for harvesting. They really follow the rhythms of the earth because they know that soil that is full of life will yield grapes that are full of life, which will yield wine that is full of personality. And that's really what it's all about. It's all about the farming, and they get that. So they don't do anything else. They don't add sulfites. They don't manipulate. They don't do anything other than farm really, really carefully and lovingly, pick the grapes at the appropriate time, put them in a fermentation vessel, crush them, and let nature take its course. Liter bottles, all of them, so 33% more fun, because you need 33% more fun this holiday season. You know you do. It is 2020. So liter bottles, very natural. You can enjoy an entire bottle of this and not wake up with a hangover. I promise you, if you drink water and you eat food, this wine, you will wake up the next day energized. I've done it. I can attest to it. I will put the infomercial out. Aaliyah has as well. And I've tried it with every single one of his wines, so I know it's not just the red. And it's true. Wine without manipulation, you can drink it, you can enjoy it. You don't get the headaches. You don't feel groggy the next day the way you do with manipulated wines. It really is a beautiful, beautiful thing. 10 days of maceration. So that's short in red wine. Actually, it's right in the middle for red wine. 2 weeks is about normal. If you're doing a light fermentation or a light maceration to make a lighter colored red, it'd be a couple days. So right in the middle. Maceration just means the amount of time that the skins sit on the juice during the fermentation process. So they're macerating in the juice and they're getting all the color from the skins and the complexity and the depth from the skins. So rosé is 24 to 48, 72 hours. Light maceration, 2 to 3 to 5 days. 10 is going to be right in the middle. And then for really dark, inky, tannic red wines, you're looking at about 2 weeks. 100 hectoliter cement. So no oak in this whatsoever, just cement. Cement is really used among natural producers because it's a natural insulator and it's a natural temperature control vessel. It's easy to keep the wine at the temperature you want it to during the fermentation process because wine heats up during fermentation. And then after fermentation, it keeps it at a nice cool level and allows the wine to age. It's also porous, and so that helps the wine age gently and evenly in that vessel. So 1 year, unfined, unfiltered, bottled with minimal sulfur. Oh, he is adding just a touch of sulfur. I was wrong. 10 parts per million for this vintage. Some vintages he does not use any sulfur, and I thought that that was this one, but he used 10 parts per million, but that is minuscule. Naturally occurring, there's about 25 parts per million in wine, and so that would get this at about 35 parts per million, which per the new French wine laws would still fit it into the natural category. And absolutely beautiful wine. Take some time to sip it. Aaliyah, thoughts, anything I missed while I try this guy out again?
Well, no, you did a really great job. Just to reiterate what I put in the chat for everybody, if you like this wine, we do also have the Bianco that Adam mentioned. We have the Greeno that we actually did on last week's tasting, which is still, so no bubbles, and we have the sparkling version of that wine too. Also love, of course, a liter bottle, more bang for your buck. And we do get a lot of people asking us about the crown caps. For those of you that got bottles, you can see this. And for those of you that the personal tasting kit, you probably didn't know that these bottles have a crown cap on them. And we get the question why a lot in the shop. And it's more cost effective for natural wine producers to use, first of all. And then also cork is a bioproduct. Cork comes from a tree, and as a natural product, it can develop bacteria in it as well, and that can negatively impact your wine. So in addition to making sure that it's more cost effective for their purposes, a lot of natural wine producers are going to a crown cap or a screw cap to make sure that their wine that they're not adding any preservatives into stays as fresh as possible for you to enjoy, and if you want to sit on it a little bit, for it to age a little bit too. So that is why there's a crown cap, and all his wines are bananas good. So you should try them all. The end. It's just got weirdly quiet in here.
Yes, agreed.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I was enjoying the wine.
Oh, sorry.
I really, no, you're fine. I was deep in thought actually on that one, because it's interesting. So we were out of this for about 2 weeks, which means that they sent a different lot from Italy. Natural wine being natural, it's always changing. And not only is every vintage different with these wines, every release is different, even among the same vintage. And so it's always an adventure every time we get a new one in the store, because it's going to be a little bit different than the last one was. This one has a little bit more structure than the last version of the E Rosso did. The last version of the E Rosso was a little juicier. This one has a little bit more tannin structure on the back end, which will really help it, again, latch on to those fatty, rich foods. It's not intense, but it's there. One thing I want to mention, for those of you who may not have done wine tastings before, when you're tasting wine, you do want to swish it around in your mouth just a little bit. 5 10 seconds. If you can suck in some air while you're tasting it, that helps kind of envelop the flavors. But you want to swish it around because the parts that pick up the different scent, the different profiles of the wine are located in different parts of your mouth. So where you taste the tannin and where you taste the acid, or perceive it, I should say, not necessarily taste it, where you perceive those things are going to be in different parts of your palate. And so swish it around 5-10 seconds, let it get in there, and then your mouth will start to salivate as well after you're finished. This has got great acid. Even after the wine finishes, it's been a good 2 minute. I don't know, my concept of time is terrible, but I still taste it. It's still there, the complexity is there, the flavor is still there, and that is the hallmark of a really great wine. It also means it's going to age well. Even though Barbera is meant to be drunk young, this wine would go 5-10 years easily and continue to change and evolve through that process. Pair with any grilled meat dishes, any steaks. You could do it with pork. Very, very versatile. Very, very delicious. We love the Poderi Cellaria wines. We have them all the time in the store, at least one of them. We try to keep, they are super limited and super tiny production, but they've got some awesome wines. Their sparkling red has been one of my favorite reds of the season. $23 a bottle too for the liter, and it really is a great value. All right, so now we're going to travel over to France for the last two wines. And I actually surprised myself on this tasting because I normally try not to double up varietals or double up regions, but I did it on this tasting because I like these wines so much. And the grape that I doubled up is Cabernet Franc, and the region that I doubled up is France. Within France, we're going to go to a couple different parts of it, but these wines to me are just really classic Christmas wines and really classic cold weather wines. They've got great complexity. They've got great structure. They've got great depth and flavor, and they're classic wines. Cab Franc has been one of the most popular grape varietals in the store. Aaliyah, were you about to say something?
No, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I thought I heard you. Cab Franc is one of the more popular grape varietals at the moment. And it's really, really versatile, and it's really fun, and it's really delicious. So Beatrice and Pascal Lambert, they're located in the Loire Valley in the region of Chinon. So in Chinon, Cab Franc is king, and it really is what they focus on and what they do best. And it's where a lot of people say it reaches its greatest expression as a single varietal wine. Cab Franc is often blended with other wines, as we will see in the next wine when we get to the Bordeaux. But as a single varietal expression, Chinon is considered the greatest place in the world for Cabernet Franc. And Pascal and Beatrice Lambert, beautiful couple, farming organically, as mentioned. There are no sulfites added on this one, and I think it says it on the bottle. If it doesn't say it on the bottle, it says it on the producer's website. So they are absolutely no sulfur added. And as you can see, horse and buggy versus tractor, and not certified. Most of these producers are not certified because of the expense that it would add to their cost of production, and in the end, what it would put the wine at on my shelf retail. So because they don't want to increase the price just for a certification, and they've been doing it for the entire time that they've owned these vineyards, there's no reason for them to. We know they are. We can attest to the awesomeness of the wine, and that's all that we need. So not certified, but practicing, and very, very in tune with the land, as are all of these producers. 100% Cabernet Franc, as I mentioned, 10 to 30-year-old vines from gravelly and sandy soils, macerated in concrete vats for 14 days. So Poderi Cellaria macerated for 10 days. We have the Chinon macerated for 14 days, so 4 extra days with skin contact to coax out more complexity and more depth and more flavor and more color. Aging occurs in concrete for this one as well, between 6 and 12 months. And I'm going to make a correction there, Leah. No sulfites in this wine. And this one, if you get a hint of bell pepper in there, that is a very classic Cabernet Franc aroma. The bell pepper, especially from Chinon, is how you pick out Cabernet Franc in a blind tasting every time. It's not always there, but it is a very, very common hallmark of Cabernet Franc. It's pyrazine, green bell pepper, and when you first open the bottle, it's very, very apparent and it's very intense. When the bottle's been open for a little while, so some of you who have tasting kits, they were poured last night, so the wines had a chance to open up a little bit. And the bell pepper will be a little bit more faint in your glass. And it does change with the introduction of oxygen. And that goes with tannin, that goes with bell pepper, that also goes with barnyard and funk. So if you ever get a wine that's funky and has some barnyard aromas to it, let it open up for quite a bit. And you'll notice that over time, those aromas will lessen because the oxygen blows off those aromas. They've been trapped inside that bottle. When it hits the oxygen, those aromas, they begin to dissipate just a little bit. So Cabernet Franc, green bell pepper, dark fruits, pair with roasted chicken, barbecue, herb-crusted pork loin, and meat and mushroom sauce. Yes, 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 and yes. Man, I'm hungry. That's an interesting spelling of barbecue, Aaliyah. I like that. Any thoughts to the Pascal Lambert Chinon?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Hey, yeah. What's up? Sorry, I thought you were pulling the class. Cab Franc is such a crazy grape that trademark green bell pepper. I think the first time I had Cab Franc, it really took me by storm. But sometimes I get a similar note like that sometimes from Cabernet Sauvignon as well. And some of you may have also from Cabernet Sauvignon. And that is because Cab Franc is actually one of Cab Sauv's parent varietals. So Sauvignon Blanc and Cab Franc are the parents of Cabernet Sauvignon, hence the name. And so if you ever taste a teensy bit of that pyrazine, that green bell pepper with a Cabernet Sauvignon as well, that's because of this guy. And I think that's fun that you can see the genetic links between parents and children, just like in real life with adults.
It is, absolutely. That is one of many references that you could bring to how much vines have in common with people. And it's really true. You can see the DNA, the parental heritage of the Cabernet Sauvignon grape from the Cabernet Franc grape, and often blended together in many, many parts of the world, as we'll see in this next wine that we're going to get into. Man, that's just really, really delicious. I haven't tasted that one in a while, and I forgot how awesome it is. Beautiful balance of fruit, acid, tannin. And that really is the theme in all of these wines. They've got complexity, they've got weight, they've got richness, but they're all in just perfect balance and great food pairing wines for anything that you're going to have on the table. Yum, 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 yum. All right. The next and final wine of the evening, we have the Chateau Pays Bonhomme from Bordeaux, France. So we're taking a journey south from the Loire Valley down into Bordeaux. Bordeaux is arguably, well, there's a lot of famous regions in France. I'd say between Bordeaux, Champagne, and Burgundy, I think Bordeaux has the latter two by just a hair, but it's very, very close between those three in popularity and visibility, in name recognition, and in what a lot of collectors are seeking. Those three regions are kind of the pinnacle when it comes to wine throughout the world. And Bordeaux is a very famous region that only grows 5 grapes in the red varietal, allowable by law. Used to be 6. Technically, it kind of still is 6, but the last is not planted there at all. But you have Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Petit Verdot, and why am I blanking? Malbec on the last one. Carmenere would be the 6th allowable, but not really grown anymore in Bordeaux. And the bulk of the wines coming from there are a combination of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. Those are the two most important, most popular, and always create the base of the Cabernet or of the Bordeaux blends. You don't find Cabernet Franc as the main grape. You don't find Petit Verdot as the main grape, and you don't find Malbec as the main grape in Bordeaux. So, Chateau Pey-Bonhomme, they are biodynamic certified, actually. So we talked about certifications, and most of these guys aren't certified, but Pey-Bonhomme is certified biodynamic and very, very natural, which is hard to find in Bordeaux. Bordeaux, like Napa, has become very commercialized and very industrialized. Even though a lot of people don't realize it, a lot of the highest end wines can still be highly manipulated in the Bordeaux region and done in a more modern style versus classic style. So it's become harder to find really authentic wines from Bordeaux at good price points. I mean, if you're going to spend $1,000 on a bottle, yes, it's going to be genuine. It's going to be authentic. It should be anyways. If you haven't watched the documentary Sour Grapes, watch it. It'll open up your eyes. But for the most part, if you're paying that much money for a bottle of wine, it's going to be a naturally made wine, or traditionally at the least. In the under 50 category in these regions, Napa, Bordeaux, it becomes harder to find authentic wine because at that level, people are just trying to make as much money as possible. They're using the name, they're using the region to sell the wine. They don't really care about the quality of the wine. They just want to make a quick buck and slap Bordeaux on the label and have you pick it up at Total Wine. So this Bordeaux is the opposite of that. 70% Merlot, 20% Cabernet Franc, and 10% Malbec. This is a very elegant, feminine style Bordeaux. I say feminine and soft and elegant, and I use the terms masculine and feminine in wine to mean masculine for bigger and brawnier, and feminine to elegant and softer. Not a sexist term at all, but just a way to describe the wines. And this to me is a feminine style Bordeaux. You have more high tone notes. You have a little bit brighter fruit. You have some earth. You have some depth, some complexity, some tannin on the back end. But just a very pretty wine. Organic biodynamic farming since 2000, as we said. There it is. Fermentation with indigenous yeast in concrete vats, minimal sulfur at bottling, generally no sulfur if they can help it, and unfined, unfiltered, and vegan. Yep. What's interesting about this wine is that we tasted it earlier today, and it didn't have as much tannin apparently in the mouth. And so the more it's opened up, the more expressive it has become. You should always decant your wines for at least 30 minutes if you have the time. It really will benefit them, and they really will come out and represent what they are. Because when we tasted this earlier, it was closed off and you didn't get the tannin structure. You didn't get the fullness and the richness on the palate. It seemed a little closed off. It seemed a little shy, almost as if it didn't want to show all of its complexity and depth. But with oxygen, it's enabled it to kind of come out of its shell and reach a fuller potential and fuller depth of wine. There's layers and layers and layers in this, and the tannin is still there. So let's talk about tannin a little bit more real quick now that we've tasted all of these wines. We mentioned it in the very early slides that it helps with richness and fat in food. Tannin is that sensation that dries out your mouth, that sucks the moisture out of your mouth, that can sometimes seem a little bitter or tobacco-y or woody or oaky. That is tannin. It's natural, and it's a component of wine to help it age for a long time. High tannin wines that have a good balance of fruit and acid are the wines that can age for 20, 25, 30 years. And the tannin helps preserve the fruit in that process so that in 20 years, the wine still feels fresh and vibrant and lively, and it still has flavor and it still has complexity, even after that much time in the bottle. The tannin helps the wine age and preserve the fruit in the long haul. Also cuts through fat in food. Now, those two things aside, some people like tannin and some people don't like tannin as a palate preference. We find about 75% of the general wine drinking population does not like tannin. About 25% of the wine drinking population likes tannin. So if you're in the camp that doesn't like tannin, what you need to do is let the wine breathe even longer. So, we talked about a 30-minute decant. If it's a really tannic wine, it might need an hour and a half. It might need 2 hours of decanting for those tannins to soften up enough so that you'll enjoy it. Or you need to eat it with food. Even just meat and cheese will change the way this wine finishes. When we used to do tastings in the store and we had a tannic wine and people kind of made that face and you could tell they didn't like it, we'd say, go take a piece of cheese or meat, take a bite, and then take a sip of wine, and then try the wine again and tell us if you like it. And 9 times out of 10, they like the wine after they had the food with the wine. So eat it with food, decant it a little bit longer. Or if you have, well, you really wouldn't know this if you've already, or you wouldn't be able to do this if you've already opened up the bottle, but aging it for 10 to 15 years is going to help the wine soften and tannin over the long term as well. So if you got a case of something and you pop it open and it's too tannic for you right now, put it back in the cellar for 10, 15, 20 years, and then get back into it. So that is the Chateau Pébonhomme, Le Tour Rouge. As with all of the wines, fermented with indigenous yeast, concrete vats. That's a theme that is constant throughout all of our wines. Not all of the wines in the store, most of the wines in the store, and all of the wines that we tasted today. Pairing porcini mushrooms. I'm still thinking about mushrooms in Bordeaux. With that risotto, yes. Ossobuco. Man, that would be a great Christmas dinner. I think somebody needs to start that tradition if they haven't already, because ossobuco would be amazing. Risotto, steak, braised beef, short rib, all absolutely delicious. All right, so this is the time where we decide what your favorite wine was. And then from there, we're really trying to figure out your individual palate. That is the goal at Fermented. We want to figure out what you like so that every time you walk in the store, you're going to purchase a wine that you're going to enjoy. And every single person is different, as we'll find in this survey. So figuring out the wines that you like and why you like them. If you don't like tannin, knowing that you don't like tannin. If you like full, rich, high alcohol, knowing that you like that. If you like elegant and restrained, knowing that you like that, because of the 350 odd wines that we have in our room from time to time, they're all a little bit different, and you aren't going to like all of them. There are very few people on the planet that would like every single wine in my store, because every single wine is a little bit different. Now, they're all great wines and they're all there for a reason. And I love all of them for a reason, but not everyone is going to like all of the wines that I carry. So getting to know your personal flavor profile and your personal taste preference is very important to you and to us. All right, so Miss Stacy Craig, Division Un. Natalie Warner, Pascal Lambert, Marissa, number 4, the Paybone Home, awesome. Nick, 4, edging out 3, but they were all great. I love it. Amanda, number 3, Lauren, number 2. What about Bobby and Annie? There we go.
There's good variety here.
Number 4. It looks like number 4 might have just taken the lead. I think so. All right, we're gonna have to have a tiebreaker here, Miss Aaliyah. Steven, what was your favorite? Number 4, nice. Number 4 has definitely taken the lead right now. Are we missing anybody here? Nope, I think we've got everybody. All right, and I'm throwing in with number 4 as well. It's drinking really, really good right now. Aaliyah, what you got?
It's hard because to me that number 4 is like a big comforting leather chair that's like in a chateau where you can see lavender fields outside. Like, I know that's very specific imagery, but that's what I'm experiencing here in the shop. But I am a sucker for a Division Oon, I think, which is a surprise choice for me. So I'm going to go with Oon.
I love it. And with that, the most important thing to see is that everybody has a different favorite. Every single person here's found at least one of these wines to be their favorite. And so even though they're all a little bit different, they're all a little bit unique, someone fell in love with one of them. All of them.
Hopefully all
fell in love with, yes. One or all of them at the same time, which is okay with wine. I digress very quickly. So that is our Christmas table tasting. The Chateau Paybone Home was the winner. I'll go through prices real quick. Mention this tasting or purchase them. I did set up the code online, so you can do it either way. If you order online and put in the Zoom code, all caps, you'll get 5% off. If you come in the store, purchase the bottles and mention the Zoom tasting, you'll also get 5% off. Division Willamette Valley is $35 a bottle. Paderi Chilario e Rosso coming in at $23 a bottle. The Lambert Las Terraces, $29 a bottle, and the Chateau Paybone Home, $33 a bottle, which in my opinion is a stunning value for all of these wines. Thank you all very much for joining us. You can find more information about us, our tastings. You can view past Zoom tastings. You can check out our online store. You can join Wine Club all through the website. We'd love to see you often in the store, as we do most of you on here. And we thank you again for your support in this journey through 2020. We hope that we will see you before Christmas, because you need to load up on these wines. Again, these are all part of our Christmas 6-packs. The Christmas 6-packs are also on the online store in the curated pack page. So if you want something simple and easy, you can pick between holly or mistletoe, whichever one you're feeling. They're both delicious and they're both awesome, and they will both be guaranteed to please all of the palates at your Christmas table. Follow us on social media. If you love us, give us a review on one of those platforms. And we look forward to spending the rest of the year with you and the rest of 2021 and beyond with you. Thank you all very much. Have an awesome night. We'll see you hopefully before next year, but on Zoom, we'll see you next year. Have fun the next couple weeks, and we're going to roll out Wine Tasting 101 for the month of January. So we're going to hit France, Spain, Italy, and California for the first 4 weeks of the year, and kind of do just a quick overview of those regions, and then taste some wines from those regions. So it'll be a lot of fun, and have an awesome night. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, and come see us in the store. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
goodbye, goodbye. How do I do? Leave. See ya.
And then do it again.